Welcome to this new episode of Searching for the Question Live. My name is David Orban, and I cannot but comment on the fact that we have a new intro music, which may deserve its own little commentary, because obviously I used all kinds of AI tools to put it together. Also, I don't delude myself that some spurious copyright claim is not going to be lodged against this music, even though it is AI generated. So if anyone owns it, it's me or neither. But definitely it shouldn't be hit by a copyright strike. But all of these are so broken in terms of managing who owns what, who can claim what we allow automated systems to do or not. Well, it is, as of today, pretty hopeless. Anyway, let's get into the topic of today, which, of course, is still AI, as it should be. AI is on the minds of a lot of people. And I am happy to have a guest who has been experimenting and developing AI tools and is making them available to people who want to adopt them to improve their personal or professional life. Welcome, David Passiak, to Searching for the Question Live.
Thanks so much for having me, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
I would
I love the intro, the new intro, by the way. It sets a nice
oh,
tone.
thank you. And being able to do it with these fantastic tools also means that I can iterate and change and make a new version anytime I want, right?
Right.
It is really exhilarating to be able to command such a vast repertoire of creative tools. It opens so many doors, and it is really enjoyable. So, before we talk about the tools and their implications, tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get to where you are now? Because there are some unexpected angles, and I may
Yeah,
ask you about them as well. So, please tell us about that, and we will start from there.
sure. So, yeah, I have a different background than most people working in AI. I actually started off my career as a religion scholar. So, I was in a PhD program at Princeton. I studied things like comparative mysticism. I studied mass movements that were known as Great Awakenings, these mass transformations and shifts in religious, cultural, cultural ideas, social ideas. I studied the rise of how people think about being spiritual but not religious, the rise of individualism, and look at a lot of these mass trends over history. What I found in my research, which I think is interesting and directly relevant to AI, was I found that when you look back in history and you see these massive religious, cultural shifts, they tend to coincide with mass adoption of technology. So, for example, you can't look at the 60s counterculture independent of the rise of color television, the mass production of LPs, and this kind of explosion of color that happened in the 60s. You can't look at the civil rights movement independently of images of protests being beamed into the houses of people all over the world into these new television sets. And then even going back to the Great Awakenings of the 1700s and 1800s, there were massive shifts at how people did printing. And of course, even going back to the rise of the Gutenberg and the invention of the printing press, that's kind of relates to the movements around the Reformation and shifts towards individualism going back then. So I studied all of these massive shifts. And I think it's interesting to highlight those because we're going through in the last 20 years so much change with social media, so much change with AI, and all of these external shifts in technology are leading to massive shifts in our understanding of who we are. So my background, I kind of spent my 20s basically reading and doing this type of stuff. I love that you're an AI expert and you have a whole background of real physical books. It's nice to see that people are still reading actual
It
books.
it, it goes 360 degrees, actually.
Yeah. So I went from basically studying how these mass movements happen to then building them on behalf of brands. I ran social media for Volkswagen. I worked in for a company called Visible Technologies, which was an early doing AI for sentiment analysis. And then I went on from working in these kind of agency and more corporate environments to then working in innovation, co-creation, collaboration work. I wrote 4 books. I started developing a dialogue-based approach to innovation. And I basically developed a method of teaching, kind of guiding decisions from start to finish, engaging leaders in dialogue, helping them to make better decisions, helping them to think through new products, new strategies, stuff like that. It was actually in about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I interviewed Martin Ford, who wrote The Rise of the Robots, one of the first kind of really big books around AI. And Martin Ford presented this view of a jobless future where basically AI was doing everything. And I'll be honest with you, it really terrified me at the time. The book was called Empower How to Co Create the Future. And I had, like many people, I had all this fear and anxiety of AI taking jobs. I had this kind of scarcity mindset and just lots of fear and anxiety around AI. I actually started because of, in part, as a response to that interview. I started developing a company called Flow Coach, focusing on different types of meditation and flow practices that people could use to optimize their life. I felt like that was a way that I could kind of future proof myself and my career, thinking of these things that people are always going to need. But what I found was that when generative AI started to become available with ChatGPT and then 3.5 and then later 4, my experience of using AI was just the complete opposite of all of this fear and anxiety that I had. I found actually that using AI was incredibly empowering. I found that I was able to accomplish more by myself than I could with an entire team. And I found that also I had developed all of these transferable skills from these dialogue based approaches to innovation that were directly relevant to using AI. And that started leading me down this rabbit hole of building AI models using natural language that eventually led me to create an AI model for Flow Coach, and then eventually to develop Creator Pro, which now uses chain of thought prompting and sort of these dialogue based approaches to transforming AI and ChatGPT into like having a team of on demand experts. So it's been a real kind of interesting journey. I never imagined when I started my career that I would end up doing anything remotely close to AI. But I've also found that my work in AI is very much similar to the type of textual analysis and stuff that I did when I used to study mysticism, 30 years ago. So it feels like my whole career has kind of gone full circle. Uh,
Well, the ability to describe the world is very powerful. At
yes,
the beginning, there was the word, is
yes,
about being able to label things. And evoke them into existence by being able to talk about them. So, in this sense, the power of language has been recognized or even feared as something extremely important in the narratives and the mythologies that supported our social organizations.
Yeah.
And I am fascinated about what you said before. And if you don't mind, I would like to go back to it, and
Yeah,
then we will talk
absolutely.
about AI. When you said that, according to your studies, uh, various religious and spiritual movements coincided with technological advances.
Hmm.
You didn't mention it. What I expected is that you would mention the emergence of agriculture as one of the first technological leaps that were that was simultaneous with the birth of uh, important civilizations, empires in Babylonia, in
Hmm.
Egypt, in Mesoamerica, China, and of course with the belief systems and the social organizations that followed.
Hmm.
And I find it rather poignant that, according to the analyses of skeletons from before the invention of agriculture, when hunter gatherer societies dominated, well, or were the prevalent way of living, with those that fed themselves from farming, we can deduce how the caloric intake of the first was superior to those
Mm.
of the agricultural societies, because the second were shorter people. And it is only uh, recently that, statistically speaking, human populations started to reach the average height that we had 10,000 years ago, because our caloric intakes um, are now rich and varied and reliable, like those of hunter gatherer societies. Now, of course, in a very different way, because you could only have a given number of people by every square mile or square kilometer of territory. Uh, you couldn't have a higher density of population. It is agriculture, or even more recently, industrial farming, that enables 8 billion people to live, um, where starvation is only a consequence of civil war or um, incredibly corrupt and broken logistics, rather than a consequence of us not being able to handle resources. But uh, you mentioned a few important, more recent technologies like the printing press, like radio broadcasts, television, and of course, more recently, the internet, social media, and the most recent AI developments. And what characterizes these is that they come at faster and faster waves. And I don't think we have been able to adapt our metaphysical, mystical, and spiritual worldviews with an equally rapid manner. Have we?
No, we haven't. No, and I think when you look at the data, so the average attention span, for example, has dropped from 12 to 8 seconds in the last 20 years. You've seen rates of obesity, of depression, of all different types of quality of life have actually been on a steady decline, despite all of these gains in technology. And I think that the average person does not have the the skill sets and the ability to self-regulate to deal with all of these changes. One of the things that's really important for me when I try and get across with all of my work is, on the one hand, we need to think of technology as a way to empower ourselves. So there's so many tremendous benefits that we can have from AI. There's so many benefits in terms of productivity, creativity, outputs. There's the possibility of being able to function and have the productivity and outputs comparable to an entire team doing things just by yourself. And as the costs of data and accessibility of AI becomes more widespread, it means that those potential benefits are going to be available to almost anyone in the world. And that is a huge democratization of power, which is very exciting. And I like to focus on that empowerment level. At the same time, technology can be incredibly overwhelming, that our Paleolithic bodies and ancient nervous system is not designed for this type of tremendous amount of constant stimulus and overstimulation. And so there needs to be this it's important for people to find some sense of balance. That is absolutely crucial.
Would you say that, and it intrigues me because you said we are incapable of self-regulating, and I wonder whether this.
It's not that we're incapable of it. It's that is a skill set that we need to learn. I think that most of modern society is optimized around attention, and it's optimized around instant gratification. And so a lot of people are so focused on some type of immediate sense of satisfaction from sharing something or liking something, from constant stimulation from using social media, that they have a hard time thinking about the long term. They have a hard time planning. They also have a hard time with deep focused work, and it's tremendously challenging when AI is starting to come along, because it's that type of deep focus work, that ability to think step by step, that is really the key to succeeding in the future. It's not a I don't like to think of this kind of like the traditional way that things are framed is like there's humans versus machines. We've been told this story in movies like the Terminator, and it's these kind of post-apocalyptic doom scenarios. It's almost like we've been primed to expect that the world is going to collapse as there's more and more technology inundated into our lives. And I think that technology is there to augment our lives. It's there to help us to be better humans. We can also use AI to better self-regulate. I think in the future we will be able to use it for things like getting push notifications to remind yourself to take a breath, remind yourself to like take a break from technology. There's ways in which, as AI gets further integrated into our lives, it can help us to restore balance. And that's the thing that I'm the most excited about with AI, is this what's often called technogenesis. This idea that basically this concept that it's not humans and technology, we're both co-evolving together, right? And it's that co-evolution with technology that I think is the most kind of fascinating and exciting thing for me as I think about the future.
I like to think about the arc of development that simultaneously occurs in the life of an individual, and as they are immersed in the arc of development of their community or the society or the largest unit we see today, the civilization that they are part of. And the faster and faster waves of development that we are seeing are pushing each of these, the individual, the community, the society, and the civilization, at the limits of their adaptability. And what I believe is, at least in part, the value of the tools that you and I and so many others are enjoy experimenting with, is uh, that they extend these limits. Potentially, at least,
Yeah.
they allow us to peak beyond what used to be the most we could do. And now we can say, okay, do I want to spend as much time as before to achieve 10 times more? Or do I want maybe spend half of the time as before and achieve just 5 times more, which is already incredible, right? So we have new choices and new degrees of freedom that we can take advantage of thanks to
Yeah.
these tools.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, when the way that people tend to talk about AI in the media is primarily in terms of these productivity gains. And there is this tendency to just try and map it to some type of economic benefit and to kind of quantify it in that way. But what I've found is that there's a tremendously powerful qualitative change in the meaning and purpose of life that can come from using AI. And what I mean by that is you are you are expressing your thoughts, you are asking questions, you are saying the things that are of the most kind of ultimate significance to you. I often recommend that people communicate with AI in a kind of stream of consciousness approach. Stream of consciousness in terms of like basically expressing your entire full thought. When you're expressing your entire full thought, you're actually giving the AI much more context and detail, which allows it to give a better response. But what happens is you immediately get a response back that is intelligent, that is cogent, that is emotionally kind of reaffirming, and you immediately get a level of synthesis and integration back that is reflecting something back to you. And when you're going through that process on an ongoing basis, it is deeply transformative. It also leads you to ask more profound questions. It's not just a matter of productivity. It's like when you're able to accomplish something in a day that used to take you weeks, you all of a sudden you start thinking, well, what can I accomplish in a month? What can I accomplish in a year? Maybe you can accomplish in the next year what used to take someone an entire lifetime to do. Maybe your career, you can now accomplish something more than an entire field of people used to be able to do. And there's a way in which you're also getting this immediate feedback, right? When you're working in a team context, when you need to ask feedback from something, or can you please help me with this, you have to basically explain it and you have to wait for that to come back. The feedback, that all of that is happening instantaneously. I like to think that we are basically, with AI, it's an opportunity to tap into the collective intelligence of humanity. We're literally interacting with these AI models that are trained on the vast amount of data that's encompasses the entire internet. And someday, and we're only at the beginning of this. I mean, we can imagine 5-10 years from now, AI will be able to have abilities that go beyond the entirety of all of humanity in terms of certain types of abilities.
We will address that as well. What does it mean
Yeah.
when we will have artificial general intelligence, artificial super intelligence, and so on? What I like is putting all of this in context
Yeah.
by saying that with encyclopedias and more recently Wikipedia, that is an amazing create an unexpected creation of the internet, crowdsourcing what used to be expert produced before with Encyclopedia Britannica or others, we could have immediate access to facts. And
Hmm.
then we would create narratives around these facts, incorporating them in our blogs and articles and writings and YouTube videos. And with Google or other search engines, we would get access to the opinions incorporating these facts. And that is what we were able to achieve. Large language models give us an articulated voice that someone take excessive advantage of in an acritical manner, where they delve into the tapestry of whatever over abused terms the large language models use, betraying the fact that the text that has been given to you without someone reading it again has been generated by AI. But nonetheless, it is very precious that everyone can leverage these tools to express themselves as best as they can. Their thoughts uh, get clarified, their stilted sentences get rounded out. So now, in my opinion, and you hinted at that, the most important step that we can take and we should take is to ask ourselves, what are the questions that we should be asking? The
Yeah.
ability to ask entire new categories of questions, including asking the models themselves, help me find the best questions in order to dig deep in this particular topic. That is what is the accelerant, the catalyst of this type of increased feedback cycle that you just mentioned.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about I mean, this goes back to what's been referred to now in AI research as chain of thought, right? Thinking of like there is a chain of thinking, there is a step-by-step process. There's a certain amount of, you ask questions, you have certain assumptions, you take the perspective of a particular persona, and then that leads you to a next step, that leads you to another step, and so on and so forth, right? Oh,
So I
thanks for
am
bringing that
showing,
up.
yeah, I'm showing the URL of your website,
Yeah,
creatorpro.ai. By the way, I'd recommend configuring it so that the dub is not necessary. Right now, it is. One has to type it. But regardless, explain to us, how does this platform work? It is not clear to me whether it is a software as a service tool, it is a community, it's a coaching relationship that someone establishes with you on a one-on-one basis, or a mix of all of that.
sure. So we've just started to roll out the site. So you see, for example, on the top, Expert AIs and AI Academy. We've had two groups of two groups of beta testers that have gone through for the AI Academy, and then we're also developing expert AIs as well. So the way that I approach this, I started working on this chain of thought approach, thinking step by step. What does it mean? How would an AI guide me from start to finish if I was developing vision and leadership, or if I was creating a product, or if I was doing sales and marketing, or approaching how to manage my clients, or how to create content? So we've created a system of over 60 GPTs. So the GPTs, they work inside of ChatGPT.
And I can find them in the GPT catalog.
No, so the GPTs are the way that I can actually show you the, I can show you the, give you a little kind of on-screen demo if you'd like.
Yes, please. In the meantime, while you are setting that up, for those who are following, uh, ChatGPT, the free version is wonderful, but if you can afford $20 a month, I absolutely recommend paying for the version that will give you access to all kinds of additional advantages. Not only the more advanced model GPT-4, but also these specialized GPTs, which are also the ones that David is about to show to us. And these have been um, it is important to understand that these are not new AI models. They are not even fine tuned, but they are prompted and they can learn from a specific set of documents in order to be oriented towards a specific type of interaction with the user. So they are a step in the direction of democratizing um, tools that are specialized, that can interact in very specific ways, which wouldn't be available if not for millions or tens of millions of dollars if one were to fine tune or train and develop large language models from scratch. So I'm going to share your screen now, and we are now seeing the suite of AI experts. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so this is inside of the platform now. So the way that ChatGPT works, I think of ChatGPT as like the engine, and it's for $20 a month, you basically get an unlimited amount of data. If I was to create this as a standalone AI, I would have to charge a couple $100 a month because of the data costs. But creating a system that works on ChatGPT, everyone can access all of these GPTs inside of ChatGPT. So if you see here, this says your AI project planner. There's two ways of accessing the platform. I'll just give you kind of an overview. So we have all of these different GPTs. We have like around vision and leadership, product development, finance strategy, digital marketing, branding. What I did was I went through all of the Salesforce, the McKinsey, the Deloitte data, and I identified all of the areas where people wanted to learn how to use AI. If we click, for example, and we just go into one of these, then you have a mind map that kind of gives an overview of the benefits of each GPT. There's a little overview of them. Then you can also choose them down below. If I click learn more, then you can see each of these also has an instruction area. So there's how much time it takes you to complete it, the amount of time saved. There's an overview of when you should use it, how it works, steps, different FAQs. I'm going to go back to, and then we also have a list of all of the AIs that you could access as well. Now I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to open up the.
Let me ask you
Yeah,
an only slightly facetious question. Do
sure,
you have an AI that helps the user pick the AI to use for a particular use case?
I do. So I'm going to open that right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to click share this tab. Okay, so now I'm inside of the Creator Pro AI project planner. So these follow, I said, chain of thought. So chain of thought is like the user experience is designed to be like an expert guiding you from start to finish. So what it's doing is it's engaging you in dialogue. So the most common challenge that people have when they're learning how to use AI is they come to ChatGPT and they're staring at a blank screen. They don't know what to write. They don't know how to form questions. They don't really know what to say. There's a lot of it's very challenging. I would say, someone like you, David, who's spent their life learning, who's constantly curious, the user experience of using AI may feel kind of natural to you, but it's not natural to most people. So here in the project planner, what it's doing is it's asking for some preliminary data, like what are my objectives, my goals, my challenges. I'm just going to type out, let's say I want to create an MVP product. Then I want to develop a funnel and a marketing plan to launch my new product. I also need a content calendar for LinkedIn and help with LinkedIn posts and a YouTube video script. Now, I'm just entering a bunch of stuff here as just an example. So what the project manager is now going to do is it's going to make sure that it understands what I'm asking for. The way that this is set up from a technical perspective is basically I have an overview and data of all of my GPTs, their roles, their benefits, how they relate to the system. All of that stuff is tagged. There's a lot of example dialogue and stuff on the back end. And so based upon just this one little 2 sentences, I've said a bunch of different stuff I want to do. It's telling me it's saying I want to launch an MVP. I want to develop a sales funnel and a marketing plan. It's giving a clear sense of everything that I want to do. And it's starting to identify the business areas and stuff. I'm going to say, this looks great. Let's proceed to the next step. And so now, again, all of this is coming out based upon just 2 short sentences, right? This is not really a lot of detail. It's not really a lot of context. I basically just kind of blurted out a bunch of stuff that I want to do. If I was using basic ChatGPT, that would present a lot of challenges for me in terms of I was basically telling it I want to do too many things at once. So what it's doing now is it's giving me a project blueprint for all the stuff that I want to do. Then it's giving me links to the particular GPTs and also the categories where they are. So for example, then I click on MVP Builder and I go here and you can see the MVP Builder is there. And now I'm able to decide, do I want to use that or not? If I want to, I just click Open AI. And that's going to add the GPT to my ChatGPT account. And you see, I basically now have a complete detailed project plan. I know all of the tools that I'm supposed to use, and then it's telling me the steps that I should go through. So first I would develop the MVP, then I would do a sales and marketing plan. It's telling me how to do my LinkedIn strategy, my YouTube script, and so on. Again, all of this detailed information is coming out from just these 2 short sentences that I added at the beginning. And then you basically have access to a suite of multiple different GPTs. And then you're also, once they are added, those are then basically, you're able to then pull them into a conversation anytime. So I'm showing you, for example, I have all these different GPTs here. So it's very The idea behind this is it's intended to be a very intuitive, easy way for people to use AI and to be able to access it immediately, following this expert chain of thought approach.
And I just clicked around the website while you were talking. Is it correct that at least as of right now, people can get access to all of these with a single payment that is less than $100, right?
Correct. Correct. And so when you think of this over 60 GPTs, what essentially what's happening is if you're going to basic ChatGPT, a lot of times it will take you 5, 10, 15 minutes to correctly tell ChatGPT exactly what you want to do. And you have to carefully scrutinize every step. And then you go step by step. The burden is on you, the user, to basically say what you want to get done. And you have to kind of fact check as you go. The advantage of using Creator Pro is basically the AI is the specialized experts are designed to do a particular task from start to finish. You don't have to worry about the steps. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You just focus on sharing your ideas. So you can finish an average task on you can finish a task on average from 15 to 45 minutes faster than basic chat GPT. And it's just a lot easier on you as a user.
How
I've
how
all
are
I've
you measuring? This is very recent, so you may not have all the
Yeah.
data that ideally you would like to have. But how are you measuring the user's ability to take advantage of this overabundance of expertise that is available to them? Couldn't it be the case that uh, the, just like they are paralyzed by the blank slate of ChatGPT because they don't know what to ask, they are equally paralyzed by how much the system is telling them, and then they have to read, they have to understand, they have to click. It's just so much.
Yeah, well, I think that what I would say is I think the average person, and I'm basing this on two cohorts of teaching beginners and the users that we've had going through so far. I think that the average person really struggles with what to say. The idea of communicating their needs to a computer is very foreign. I think the average person um, has a mindset that learning is mostly like mindless repetition, right? We're not actually taught how to learn. We're not taught how to solve problems in school. A lot of what we learn in school is basically how to repeat what we've been told. And a lot of people are looking for something that's going to guide them step by step from start to finish, rather than something where they have to continually iterate as they go. I found that with the GPTs that I've designed, they also act like a form of training wheels. So, and what I mean by that is that the user experience of 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 using AI, it's something that you need to get used to, right? You need to get used to the idea of I'm going to say something and I'm going to get a response, and then I'm going to say something again, and we're sort of guiding along on a conversation. The advantage of the expert GPTs is that because you don't have to worry about what prompt to write, you can focus on sharing your ideas. It's kind of like training wheels on a bicycle in the sense that you have these guardrails that guide you from start to finish. So you're able to create a content calendar, or you're able to draft an email newsletter, or you're able to create a marketing plan or a product or any number of different things that you would need to do on a daily basis as running a business. And you're able to do that with some kind of guardrails and guidance. And
You,
that's really the
we-
and then I would say that I combine that also with training in terms of teaching people how to do this stuff as well.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I
It is clear
I
that today throwing the user into the deep water is really running the risk of having them drown, and doing what you are doing, having cohorts where you hold their hands, help them understand the potential of the platform that you put together is a much better way to make sure that they are satisfied and they get the results that they want.
Well, I would also say that the most common mistakes tend to happen when people say either something very simple like, like write me a complete blog post or write me a complete plan with just one sentence, right? There's no context, and then all of a sudden they get like a 2 or 3 thousand word response, and the AI has no guidance in terms of what those steps should be. Um,
And
and
then they
and that
blame the AI for hallucinating.
and then they think, oh, this is just a bunch of garbage. It's just hallucinating. The advantage of this kind of step-by-step approach with the expert AIs is because you're able to kind of confirm and evaluate at each step. You also have a custody and chain of your ideas, and you're able to mitigate the risk against hallucinations and stuff like that. I don't know. I would say that I don't see the system that I've created as being something that's going to completely replace just going to ChatGPT and using it directly. I see it as a system that can complement and supplement your use. So there's some times where you might just want to have a more kind of free flowing exchange of ideas, and you're working directly with the model itself. Whereas other times you might want to do something that's much more specific, and it's that kind of task or project based stuff that I think is where the real huge advantage of the system that I created is.
So we are all looking forward to the release of GPT 4.5 or 5 from
Yeah,
OpenAI. Now that in the benchmarks they have finally been beaten by Claude 3 from Anthropic, the competitive pressure is going to be pretty big
yeah,
for it to be released rapidly. I did not hesitate even one day to say, all right, why don't I use Claude 3? And for many tasks, I actually have been able to confirm that it is better than GPT 4. But at the same time, I also realize that they are leapfrogging each other. So
yeah,
for you, the challenge with Creator Pro is going to be a wonderful effort, because I'm sure you are having a lot of fun just going deep and creating and experimenting with all of these various GPTs, is to keep updating them and make sure that you are providing with your users um, the best experience they can have at any time. Now,
yeah.
as
Well, well,
as
I,
we
well,
are,
I, well, I would say to that. I mean, I think the next evolution is going to be AI agents, and is also going to be AIs that can do more of these complex multitask workflows. So what excites me about the what I've developed so far is I see this as being a foundation for the more complex workflows and the autonomous AI agents and managing those things, which I think will be kind of the next frontier of AI. And we don't know when that's going to happen. Some people think it could be in June. Some people think end of the year. Who knows? But I personally, I mean, I developed this because I anticipate that more complex workflows are going to be coming. The way that the system is developed now is this is really kind of pushing the limits of what's possible today. But I'm very excited to start recombining and remixing these things to basically have have AIs that can work autonomously on your behalf, with as the next generation of these AI platforms comes out.
So let's take two steps, one at a time. One, let's discuss the economic implications of that, both from the point of view of the scarcity and fear based mentality that you mentioned is kind of dominating, where people are afraid of losing their job and not being able to find another one because AIs are providing such value and so much productivity in a given corporation that or every corporation that they are not able to support themselves anymore. Or on the other hand, the more abundance driven or based mentality that looks at the economy overall as an open-ended system where these tools really can propel anyone who is able to take advantage of them to be unstoppable, to be able to create so much and so much value that certainly they will find their niche, whatever it is, in the new economic system. So, how do you see these two opposing points of view, and do you believe that society is going to be able to support those who are anxious or even in panic around the challenge they see in front of them?
Well, so first I would say that as a single person, and also as building a starting and kind of building a community from the ground up, there's not a lot that I can do to address macro economic trends. I think there are going to be a lot of jobs that are eliminated. There's a lot of and a lot of kind of the fear and scarcity that mindset that is out there. I think that is a very real reaction to some harsh realities of how AI is going to impact the broader economy. I would also say that companies like Anthropic or OpenAI, Google, they are so focused on competing with each other that they are not really doing much in terms of focusing on how do we empower people to actually use our tools. They have a kind of singular focus on developing AI models that are better than each other. So from my perspective, with Creator Pro, I developed these expert GPTs, which is where the product is now. I combine that with AI training, and then I focus on creating a supportive community that is empowering our users. Because I am yet to meet a single person within an organization that will be, or very few people are able to use AI without some type of guidance, without some type of support. I would also say that self-directed learning is something that is very hard for the vast majority of people. And so there needs to be this combination of tools that make it easier for them to use on a daily basis, combined with training on how to, and accountability structures on how to actually implement them. And then having a supportive community of your peers where you're kind of learning together. And so I've made a choice. I mean, you can look kind of the messaging and branding and stuff on my website and the stuff that we've done. I focus entirely on empowerment, and I focus on the idea of how can we make humans better? How can we have them accomplish more in their lives? I do that not only with Creator Pro, I'm also actually leading a workshop called Ikigai with AI this Saturday that's focusing on using AI to find your life purpose. Um, and I see that as being a continual focus. You know, if we go back to the conversation that we had in the beginning and we were talking about technology and humanity and these big shifts in behavior, I do believe that as there's more and more external pressure and more change from AI, it's going to be a catalyst for deeper transformation and awakening and shifts in consciousness. And we're going to be able to be more creative. We're going to be able to ask deeper questions. We're going to reimagine what it means to be human, and all of that stuff is really, it's really exciting. And I like to focus on the variables and the things that I can control, right? So I can control what I do every day. I can control my purpose, my intentions. I can control how I treat other people. I can do the best that I can to create things that empower others. We also have a generous affiliate program and referral program where basically everyone makes the same amount of money as we do every time they refer someone, because I want someone to feel like they have a sense of ownership in building this community and this vision as well. So I mean, I do the best that I can to put forward a new way of being, knowing that all these kind of scary macroeconomic trends are on the horizon as well. Oh,
So
thanks for pulling that up.
I am in complete agreement of how important this is, how crucial, uh, especially as we are not only looking at the current wave of tools and their economic implications, but as we imagine the possibility of even more powerful tools, and not only their economic but their existential implications.
Yeah.
So artificial general intelligence is that, as of now, theoretical forthcoming uh, platform or system that is able to uh, analyze, address, and solve any problem, any challenge that a human would. And artificial superintelligence is the next step, where an AGI basically tells itself that it has to improve further to accomplish the same goal of being able to analyze and address a particular challenge that at the previous level of intelligence wouldn't or wasn't able to accomplish and to do. And I think that leaving aside the important question whether an AGI or an ASI will be in conflict with humanity, even in the optimistic scenario that it won't be in conflict, it will be absolutely reasonable to wonder, both individually as well as our entire species, what is our purpose? How
Hmm.
can we live a life of dignity? Uh,
Hmm.
how can we design our trajectory and future in a world that will be in many degrees unrecognizable and driven by forces that we cannot control and sometimes we cannot even comprehend? So
Absolutely.
in that sense, the AI ikigai is really crucial. So apart from what you are going to tell the participants and how you are going to guide them to discover their purpose and action plan, how do you answer the question for yourself today?
Around what is my life purpose?
Well, you already said that you like to concentrate on things that you can control, which is fair.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you also have to ask yourself where you are going. So let's assume that in 10 years' time, we have we are in a world where AGI
My
and
my
probably AGIs are around, and they have already started changing how the world
my
works.
my big picture vision for the future is to create something that is like the operating system for humanity for the next 1,000 years. And what does that look like? It looks like some. I mean, you can imagine a future in, let's say, a radical sense of convergence in the next 10 to 20 years of devices like Neuralink. You can imagine where someone may have some type of implant that is allowing them to interface with technology outside, interface with the external world. You can imagine AI being incredibly ubiquitous everywhere. And you can imagine people wearing some type of glasses or some type of way to interact with the external world, and a kind of AI layer of intelligence being there. And I imagine people being able to, in 10, 20 years, to be able to come up with thoughts, to have an AI agent act on their behalf in the external world, to be able to interact with the external world in all different types of ways, and at the same time to provide them with recommendations around how they can regulate and optimize their internal energy and their emotional intelligence. And this way in which AI can be a way of mediating between our deeper sense of meaning and purpose on a daily basis inside of us, and how we navigate the external world, and how we navigate a world where we're all kind of sharing and interconnected. And I see that as being a radical fundamental shift in what it means to be human, when you can come up with thoughts and interact with something outside of yourself, and that other people at the same time can also interact with those thoughts. It's just a whole new way of being. It's actually a way of being that I would say is very similar to the type of world that the mystics have described for thousands of years, right? Thinking of like this sense of correspondence and harmony with the world around us. I think a world like that is actually going to become a possibility, and and to a certain extent is the kind of inevitable next step that's going to happen with the evolution of AI in maybe 10, 20, 30 years.
In the
And so
past,
and that like I would see that as being like the kind of culmination of all the stuff that I've been working on, something like
in
that.
in the past, when radical change enabled a group of humans to vastly outperform everyone else, the meeting of the two groups was not favorable to the second, to those who did not adopt that particular, let's say, technology. And the simplest example is all the various colonizations that Europeans
Sure.
accomplished in the various continents, which, by the way, didn't stop because we became better people, but because we ran out of continents to colonize. The planet was over. Eh, so,
Well, I
two
think
questions. What
sure.
is, in your opinion, the percentage of people who will understand the scenario you described, and once it is available to them, will firmly reject it, either on religious grounds or simply because they don't believe they could belong in a world like that, regardless of how attractive it feels and how beautiful it is represented? And then the second question, whatever that percentage, whether it is 10%, and we are talking about 800 million people, or 50%, and we are talking about 4 billion people, what are we going to do with them?
It's interesting. I think that when I think of the next, like, let's say 10, 20 years, and I think of the rapid adoption of AI and its impact that it's going to have on jobs, if you look at the way that elections are decided now in most countries, they're usually decided by just 1 or 2 percentage points, right? There's the margins are very small, and I think that as people are um, displaced from jobs, or as AI becomes more and more integrated into all the aspects of our lives, AI is going to become the single issue that decides the future of all elections. I would say probably every election from not so much the current ones in the U.S. coming with the presidential elections, but I would say every subsequent election is going to be having something to do with that, and it's going and the various responses to that, I think, will trigger things like different types of forms of universal basic income. It will trigger different types of programs, different types of social services things. It will also trigger different types of innovations around how to provide the necessary resources that people need. And so I don't think it's a kind of either or type of scenario where there's certain numbers of people are totally rejecting it. I think it's more like there will be a kind of gradual process. But also, if you think of things like how changes actually happen, they don't happen all at once. You think of somewhat like the work of like someone like Malcolm Gladwell and the tipping point. It's usually, a small 5% of people start to embrace an idea, and that's what eventually starts leading to a tipping point that changes the rest of humanity. So I try and focus more on innovating and empowering and continuing to kind of go ahead in this direction. I do see this kind of operating system, this bigger vision as my own unique life purpose. As I think of what I want to be working on for the next like 20, 30 years of my life, that's something that I would see myself working on. But how it's adopted and all of that, that's sort of beyond my control. And I think it's also too highly speculative. I mean, who knows? But I think the most important thing that we can do is think of how AI can help create a society of abundance. So not just in terms of technology, but also in more efficient agriculture, more efficient development of medicines, more efficient ways of harnessing energy, solar, things like
What,
that.
one of the most powerful ways, in my opinion, that we can harness AI, and going forward, it will be even more evident, is as an incredibly sharp mirror that we can put in front of us to understand not only what AI is, but what we are. Um,
Yeah,
whether it is the biases that current AI systems display, given the training we received, and we have been accepting to sweep under the carpet all of these biases without any problem for so many years. And now we cannot afford it anymore because it is so evident that we are all burdened by it, and every day influenced by the presence of those biases, or the incredible ability that AIs, especially open source AIs, especially after they become agentic, they will have
yeah,
for introspection. You know, you
yeah,
can have the most powerful monk meditating for 30 years on the top of the hill, achieving supposedly enlightenment, and then coming down the hill and sharing his wisdom, but it will be nothing compared with the millisecond ability of an open source AI to ask itself, who am I? How am I? And how can I be better?
yeah,
And then immediately proceed in implementing those improvements, uh, and it will be exhilarating not only to witness that, but to be inspired by it to accomplish potentially leaps of self-awareness and spiritual empowerment that 100,000 years of human civilization hasn't been able to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fascinating and amazing. I mean, I don't think this will happen in our lifetimes, but I actually think that at some point in the future, it will be possible to have AI integrated into the body and like synchronize with your energy system, or what people would refer to as your chakras. And you would be able to think and raise your energy and lower your energy. And you would be able to have all these types of ways of regulating your emotions and your health using just mediated by your thoughts and some type of technology in your body. It's interesting. Also, you mentioned something about monks. I've actually found that in my approach to developing natural language prompts, um, I've actually found that I've modeled some of them off of ancient mystical texts. What you do is you establish a kind of core set of principles, and there's specific types of behaviors and stuff that are triggered from that. I've actually found that the logic structure that tends to work well for the type of stuff that I've been doing is very similar to that, and in many ways kind of inspired by it, which has been really which has really kind of taken me full circle. It's like, oh my gosh, all this stuff that I studied 30 years ago, I'm now using to develop AI models. It just kind of blows me away. It's really fascinating.
I am displaying your AI generated images that
Yeah.
are on your website, and of course, they are really nice, and they are, in my opinion, to follow what you just said, an opening of our imagination.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to draw or paint these images, but now I am able to tell a system like Midjourney or Dali or any others, please do this image, and then maybe play around with 20 or 50 variants until I find one that I really like. Turns out I'm too impatient, and typically I just pick one out of the four that the system
Hmm.
gives me, rather than obsessively tweaking them.
Yeah.
But I find the expressivity liberating and stimulating, and it is a really beautiful new degree of freedom that we all have. So, David,
Yeah. And it's that ability and freedom that's so empowering, that is my really mission to to share with people.
this was a wonderful conversation. Thank you very much for your
Likewise.
time and the work that you do with Creator Pro AI. The value that people gain by signing up on the platform is, I believe, really substantial. So I hope a lot of people will do so, in order to give you the resources that will enable you to update the platform to keep up with whatever OpenAI or anyone else is going to be announcing during this year or next year. And I am looking forward to our conversations to
Yes.
continue as we learn more, and as we want to enthusiastically share what we learn with everyone else.
Well, thanks so much, and likewise, it was an absolute pleasure to be here. I really enjoyed it. I think in many ways, like when I think of empowerment and what's possible, I mean, you can look at something like this site and imagine you can't imagine creating something like that by yourself before AI, right? I mean, I like to feel like I do my best to lead by example and keep creating as much stuff as I can to put out there and sharing. And I think it's important to keep focusing on empowering people, keep focusing on sharing knowledge and expertise. And in that way, we co-create whatever is the next evolution of humanity in the future.
David, thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today at this episode of Searching for the Question Live. I am looking forward to keep exploring what technologies are becoming available to change the way we live, but also the way we think. What are the new dreams that we can aspire ambitiously to turn into reality, changing what wasn't possible yesterday to our world of tomorrow? Thank you.